Welcome, everybody, to another Horror Corner. And once again, let me welcome my co host, LC.
Hello, how's it going?
Fine, fine. I see you have an awesome background in from the movie behind you.
Yep. They're doing magic
They're
or no?
magic. Sarah and Juno doing magic.
Yeah, they're doing a ritual, it looks like. They're getting ready to fight.
Now, have you ever done spelunking before?
No, and I would never do spelunking. Let me just get that out straight away. That is not something you are going to catch me adventuring on ever. No, thank you. Pass.
I've done it. I haven't done that deep of cave before, but it's really fun. It's you have to have the right type of people that go with you, especially professionals that have done it before. You don't want to just go on a random like, well, I saw it on the television and I think I know how to do stuff. Like no, because if you get hurt, you don't and are not really good with survival, you know, stuff.
Yeah.
You're gonna probably die down there.
Yeah, I did a cave tour, not like, Carlsbad or any of those that are, where it's walkways set up. This was a volcano tube cave, and you have lanterns or flashlights, and it doesn't get anywhere near as narrow as a lot of typical spelunking caves, but it gets narrower and exceedingly dark, and I did not enjoy any of it. Not at all. That's up there with the scuba dive cave exploring. Also, never going to happen for me. Things I don't want to do. Claustrophobia is a real thing.
It is. It is. The movie we're going to be talking about tonight is The Descent from 2005. It is a British horror film directed by Neil Marshall. Now, fun fact, really quickly, the video you have behind you, the lighting that they use when they go into the caves is actually the only lighting that they use while they're in the caves. So the director wanted that feeling of, not just claustrophobia, but of, you know, this is what you're seeing, not just we're not going to use any other light except for the light that they have with them, for either fire or flashlights or anything else like that, just to get that that look of there. Once the light turns off, it's dark.
Right? There's a significant amount of realism in the way that this was shot for sure. I think that's probably why this movie has become what it has is you can't watch the movie without feeling like you are there with them. And certainly I read that this wasn't filmed in a real cave, but the sets were made to feel extremely claustrophobic. I hadn't heard that about the lighting, but it makes perfect sense. It just has a strong realism to it that it's the first scary thing about the movie. It could have been a movie all in of itself. Just the fact of getting trapped in a cave, it's one of the most frightening things I think for people, but wait, there's more.
Yes, the caves looked pretty realistic, even though they were sets.
They
They
did.
they, they designed them in a way where, almost to like darken out everything else around them, and made you, if you were claustrophobic, you would feel like you're enclosed on all sides.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, coming off of one of our previous watches where there was we'll say a pit to hell, cave-esque pit to hell that definitely uh, did not do the trick as far as realism. This one, I honestly, had I not read that, I wouldn't have known that it was a set. It feels very real throughout the whole movie. Great job, set designers.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now this movie starts off with a character named Sarah, and if you hate, car accident scenes that involve things flying through windows and impaling people, well, you're not in, in for a good time.
Yeah.
This movie basically starts off with a car crash and a couple of fatalities.
Yeah.
And yeah, brutal fatalities actually. It gave me a sort of a Final Destination moment almost.
Yep. A la Final Destination, 100%. It's a lot of wait, what kind of vehicle was that that's just driving around carrying giant metal pipes on the roof? Some sort of utility or something, but
Definitely not.
absolutely brutal.
Yeah, definitely not strapped on very well on top of the roof.
No, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, okay, so there's scare number two. Horrific, horrific accidents that could happen to anyone. Again, this movie is rife with a lot of different scare factors. So
Or accidental kills. You're like, oops,
Mhm. Nightmares, yeah. There's just a fantastic amount going on with this movie.
I do like so the character Sarah. She is being picked up by her husband after
All
going on like a whitewater rafting trip with her friends. They're sort of like thrill seekers. Her friends Juno and Beth, and um, her husband Paul and their daughter Jessica. They're driving along, driving back, and Paul gets distracted and sort of goes off into the other lane. This is in what was it? This is England or something? Not England, but this is in Europe somewhere.
Yeah.
I forget.
I
Um,
want to say Scotland because they
Scotland,
talk
yeah,
about it at one
yeah.
point. Yeah.
I think Scotland, yeah. And so
Mhm.
they're driving on the left side of the road, so that they start to drift off into the right side of the road, and end up hitting a car with what was it? It looks like a rebar or something like that on top. I don't know,
Metal,
piping.
yeah, metal pipes. Yeah.
Yeah, just fly through the window and kill Paul instantly, and another one flies right into the middle of the vehicle, and apparently they don't show it, but it's indicated and impales Jessica, Sarah's daughter. And Sarah's knocked out and wakes up and finds out that her family's dead.
And does the thing I hate. Starts pulling the needles out of her arms.
Yeah,
Horror number, what are we at? 4 now? You could also include the whitewater rafting. That was like, ugh. But yeah, then we get some serious needles being pulled out of. Stop doing that. No, keep doing it in movies. It's horrific and amazing. Yeah, it starts out pretty brutal.
yeah,
We definitely see kind of an exchange too there before the car accident. There's kind of a weird moment that happens, a little foreshadowing when they're all getting out of the water, and Paul kind of has a moment with Juno, Sarah's husband. He kind of looks at her a little bit, just kind of an odd moment. Um, and then Sarah wakes up in the hospital and she's all alone with her friends.
yeah. Well,
She
actually,
realizes that the horrors have happened.
yeah. There's this interesting thing where she's sort of like she's running through the hallways of the hospital after she pulls all the monitors and needles out of her, and there's nobody in the hallways. This is all in her head too. Well, she actually is running through the hallways, but
Right.
she doesn't see anybody. All she sees is these empty hallways, and all of a sudden behind her, the lights start going darker, 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 darker. So the darkness is following
Back
her.
rooms.
Yes.
Number 5. Horror number.
And I feel that this movie is her trying to get back to reality after the horrible incident that happened with her losing her family. Because
Mhm.
the darkness is constantly following her through this whole movie, and this cave is sort of a like a metaphor for what she's going through, but also a horrible
Mhm.
nightmare as well because it's actually happening to her.
Right. Right. This girl cannot catch a break.
No, she can't.
And
So
apparently
yeah.
not even in the sequel from what you spoiled for me before.
Sorry, I thought you saw it. I'm like, oh crap, I just spoiled it for you.
Totally fine.
So
Yeah, so then we're in horror number this is going to get me in trouble. Horror number 6. We're in the Appalachians, in the middle of nowhere, in a forest, and every station that they turn on is banjo music.
Ding ding ding
as
ding 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 ding.
or number 6, as she goes to connect with her adventure thrill-seeking friends again a year later. Do you have friends that are crazy like this?
I used to, and they got married. So
Okay, well,
we don't do stupid stuff
death
like
of
that.
adventure.
Like I used to do stuff like get on the top of my friends' vehicles and go down a dirt road, strapping two belts to the the sides of the doors, closing the doors and holding on while they're gunning it over
Yeah,
50
no,
miles an hour down a dirt road while I'm on the hood, holding on to the windshield.
not okay.
Yeah, that's me.
And then they got married.
Well, the thing is time. Family, work. We barely see each
Mhm.
other.
Yeah,
One of my friends I just
yeah.
saw him after 3 years. So
Wow. Yeah, you're watching this, and I don't know. At least I'm watching this, and there's something so amazing about having that excuse to get together with your friends once a year for some sort of a trip. But I really like wine and massage so much better than all of these thrill-seeking things. But it's a cool group of girls for sure. It seems like most of them know each other. There's kind of a newbie in the mix, but now they're out in the Appalachians, ready for their next adventure.
yeah, they're just a bunch of basically tomboys that like to get down and dirty, and also they're thrill seekers.
Yeah, Juno's definitely the more aggressive one. You can tell everybody kind of has a good time. Some tie one on the night before. They're excited to see each other. And that girl's up running at like the crack of dawn. She's like, come on, we got to get ready to go by 7 after she jogs like 8 miles. Like, that definitely not me. That's, I may be the one that has to go and take a cold shower to wake up from the night before. Um, but yeah, they're going to go now spelunking after whitewater rafting and who knows what else they've done. After Sarah's very tragic year prior, now they're going to go do one of my other fears and go into caves naturally.
Oh yeah, and into these sort of uh, basically unexplored cave systems that Juno never really informed her friends that no one really knows they're out there.
Dick move. They're all like, "Hey, there's like 3 different ways in and out, right, Juno?" And she said, I lied. Nobody's gone to this one. It's a moment for us to name it ourselves." Yeah, that don't do that. I did like a 6-mile hike on a well-developed trail on Saturday and took the time to tell people where I was going. Don't take your group of friends into a cave that's never been explored before. It's not nice.
Yeah, make sure you have a walkie-talkie that at least has a 10-mile range,
Yeah.
just in
Does
case.
that work underground? I don't even know that works underground. Ugh,
It might. It
getting
depends.
stressed out thinking about
It
it.
depends. But yeah, so yeah, Juno takes them into this cave system, and some parts are very narrow. And as they're making their way through the caves, she gets stuck in a narrow tunnel, but manages to escape before it collapses. That's when you know
Yeah,
you're
nightmare
like,
number 7.
yeah, being buried underground, or being
Mm-hmm.
crushed by rocks or anything else like that in a very
Yeah,
narrow space. I've seen some of
that
those
was.
cave spelunkers that the only way to move is doing this. This is how they shimmy, because
Uh-uh.
they can't spread their arms, they can't move up until they get to a more open area, and so they're basically like a worm. That's how narrow some of those like passages are, and you're like, that seems I'm not claustrophobic, but like I would be like, what if that thing gets stuck and you can't even back out?
Yeah, no, it's that alone. You have when you look at this movie in its totality and you think about the acting throughout that scene, um, if you get claustrophobic, that's going to be a moment for you. They portray that so well. Um, there's a story from like the early 1900s where there's a guy and that happens. He's like same kind of deal, checking out cave systems. Have you ever heard about this guy?
Yeah.
They created a whole fair above him. It became this like big, oh, let's see if he gets out. And then he died in there. Um, that's
He
you know
died
I
up. He died
instantly
upside
started.
down. He died upside down.
Yeah, it's awful. It's awful, but it's just such an absolute nightmare feeling to be. I mean, I've been stuck in places that are not underground and just that hideous feeling of not being able to get out. They do a great job of portraying that. And then, of course, like you said, then the ceiling falls down. So
They're
now
trapped.
they're really screwed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
their exit is now caved in, and this is when they find out that Juno took them into an unexplored cave system that is not registered with the local authorities, um, which means that even if they had a rescue party, they would be unable to locate them because they're not in the cave
Yeah.
system that they said they were going to be in. So
Yeah.
you can kind of put this on Juno. It's sort of like Juno's like, yeah,
Right.
let's do something cool, but let's also
Yeah.
if we die, they don't know, or if we get stuck here, no one will know we're here.
And one of them mentions too that she's like, well, I left word. It's like, yeah, at the wrong cave. It truly, I said dick move. It truly is. Like, I totally get that. Hey, we're adventure seekers. Let's go and explore something that nobody's ever. But you have to let everybody in on the secret. That's not something that you do without telling the rest of the party. But she's psyched. She's ready.
Oh
She's
yeah,
gonna name this cave after Sarah.
exactly.
And that actually time out. That's probably the okay, maybe not the most unrealistic moment in this movie, but it's to have somebody at when they find out that they're in a cave system that isn't mapped out, and Juno's explaining her why behind this decision. She does say something to the effect of wanting to do this for Sarah to help her with what happened the year prior. No, that's nope. That's not what you do. Flowers are good. You don't take someone into an unexplored cave and not tell anybody that you're going there. That's a no-no.
Yes, exactly. So as they're trying to find their way out, they're trying to find an exit. Um, Holly, one of the women in the group, thinks she sees sunlight, and she goes ahead but falls into a hole and breaks her leg.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Holy, she's kind of the scrappy one too, so you feel bad for her, but yeah, then they all go down after her naturally. The break is not good.
It's not. It's not good. And
It's not a clean break.
no, and the others, the others go to try to help her, and Sarah wanders off, and this is when we encounter one of the creatures that will,
Yeah.
that will show up all over later on in the movie. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's this like pale humanoid creature that it looks human-like, but
Bat light.
yes, but it was born in a cave, so it doesn't have the
Yeah,
same
and
way of vision as we do because it doesn't have light in the cave.
yeah, their eyeballs are sort of uh almost looks like glaucoma, like that, like gelled over, or kind of funky ears, some bat-like ears, and so pale. They make me look extremely tan. So pale. And they move very interesting too. Fun fact, I did read that when they were making this movie, one, they kept the actors away from the creatures until they first encountered them because they wanted to capture that real sense of what am I dealing with, which is amazing and should be done a lot more in cinema. Because you definitely, I mean, they're creepy to take in as a viewer of the movie, but I can't imagine, being an actor in this situation, which I also read that these caves were purposely designed, these sets, to feel claustrophobic. So you're going through this claustrophobic cave with this bare minimum lighting that you pointed out. And now you, as an actor, you're going to encounter something, but to encounter these things, um, they're pretty horrific. I also read that they spent a terrific amount of time, the actors who played these creatures, learning how to crawl as ridiculously creepy as possible, hours upon hours. And it's very unsettling the way that these things move, on all fours, kind of, and very quick, like kind of insect like in the way that they scurry.
Yeah, especially on the
Um,
walls and everything.
yeah, yeah,
So they also end up encountering a den of animal bones, basically, that these creatures apparently have, eaten and have gathered, um, and then suddenly they're attacked by another one of these creatures, and unfortunately, Holly gets killed. Rest in peace, Holly.
she gets bit in the neck.
Yes.
So
Um,
again, kind of cat like a
Sarah
little,
Sarah
but
runs away, ends up falling into a hole and knocking herself unconscious. Um, Juno,
it's not looking good.
no, Juno. This is chaos now. Juno's trying to stop Holly's body
Hmm.
from being dragged away, um, and she kills one of the crawlers with a pickaxe, but then accidentally stabs Beth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oops.
that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
You know,
Those things are sharp. My friend used to,
yeah,
I have a friends that are climbers. Those and I like I've seen how sharp those things are. They're meant to like go right into the rock, and like they're sharp. They're strong, but they're very sharp.
you kind of feel a little bad for, even though Juno is setting herself up to not, to be the character you don't feel bad for. In that moment, you feel a little, I mean, it's so unintentional when it happens. She's being attacked, she's fighting back this crazy creature, and then somebody appears behind you and you think you're being attacked again. Um, it's kind of interesting, this movie, the way that they set up Juno's character, um, because she's not incredibly unlikable, but she has all of these sort of unlikable encounters throughout the movie that are very subtle. This one's not so subtle, of course, but it is technically an accident. But it kind of creates this mounting um, array of things for eventually Sarah to just be extremely pissed off about, frankly. Um, yeah, so now everybody's kind of separated.
Yeah, you don't know who's alive. You don't know what happened exactly to Sarah until she actually wakes up, and then she's in this den of human and animal carcasses, and
Right,
she sees
right.
Holly's body being, basically, mauled, torn apart, and eaten.
Yeah. And this is I thought this was kind of interesting. I didn't notice this the first time I watched it. But there's one moment in here where you see a female creature. It's at this moment. And there's just one in the entirety of the movie. Most of them appear to be male. Um, but you have one, and it's, I don't know, it's kind of an interesting moment where um, you start thinking about what in the world is the system down here in these caverns. And they talk a little, there's these hints throughout the movie where, you're seeing all these animals. So these things have been down here a minute. You see like an old miner's hat. You see an old, like, I don't know all the terms for climbing, but some sort of a rigging point or something that's like 100 years old. So these creatures are, long term. So they've set up some sort of a society or something down here, um, they've obviously learned how to live down here and navigate these caves. So all of these people are at an extreme disadvantage. You've got Becca and Sam kind of cowering together in sort of plain sight, but the creatures just kind of pass over them. Same thing kind of happens to Sarah a little bit when she's down in this cave with all these bones. So you realize these things they're hunting for sure. They're killing all these animals and going after them, but they obviously are using sound only
Yeah,
to
like
be able
bats.
to, yeah, yeah,
Echolocation, basically. Or
mm,
somewhat of like echolocation. Maybe not the best echolocation. But
yeah,
because
yeah,
when bats use echolocation, they make a loud,
sonar.
piercing sound, and then the sound bounces back off an object, and then they're able to navigate. So they don't see like we see with sight. Basically, like Daredevil.
Yeah,
That's how his quote unquote blind vision works. Um, so yeah, uh, Sarah, well, like I said, she discovers that unfortunately Holly didn't make it. Juno ends up finding that these cave markings and that are pointing apparently to somewhat of an exit to the caves made by previous
yeah.
explorers. And like you said, she ends up finding Sam and Rebecca later. They're kind of cowering, and
Yeah, she's kind of a badass, Juno, honestly.
well, she's actually out of all the women in the group, she seems to be the most like she knows what she's doing. Like anything that they do,
Hmm.
any extreme sport they're doing, she seems to like have learned as much as she can to do these things. So she's like the first
Yeah.
one down to jump down the cave. It's not like she's waiting for everybody else to go. She knows how to rappel. She knows how to do spelunking. She probably knows how to do skydiving, whitewater rafting,
Mm.
all bunch of different extreme sports. But even though a lot of these women in the group are they're thrill seekers, she's like the ultimate thrill seeker. Like she's trying to find
Right.
the she would probably be in like hunting lions in Africa. I don't know.
Yeah, because somewhere along the line she also learned how to like snap someone's neck because that was the move she pulls out when she finds Sam and Becca. She just rolls up and does that, and snaps the crowd. I was like, whoa, okay. She also has training outside of just adventuring, apparently, that is now coming to light. She's a grade badass for sure. Her and Sarah both kind of rise up to be the badasses. Um, this was kind of an interesting moment because you mentioned Sarah finds Holly. She's like looking over all of this stuff, trying to find something to help her, and she comes across this pickaxe. Um, but she finds her friend at the same time, and that's when she realizes that Beth is down there, mortally wounded, yeah, I guess, um, but still alive. And Beth straight up rats out Juno, not just for the wound in her neck, but also for Juno hooking up with Sarah's husband. So it's getting real down in the caves.
Yeah, and it kind of like at the beginning of the film, you could see sort of Juno in the background in the hospital hallway, like she's crying, and that now Sarah's found out that her family's dead, but she sort of like turns away, like she looks like she's guilty of something,
Yeah.
and while she's crying, it's like she doesn't want anybody to see how emotional she is.
Yeah.
So we don't exactly know why she did it at the beginning of the film, and we find out a little later. But yeah, so it's kind of an interesting turn, like in the middle of the film when we find all this information out.
Yeah. It's very subtle too. I like, there's that sort of look that I mentioned at the beginning of the movie, what you talked about, this like hospital thing, but until you watch the movie the first time, and even, this scene where Sarah and Beth are talking, it's still subtle. It's not outright, which, I think adds a little bit of realism to the movie as well. Actually, it's kind of a theme across the entirety of this movie. They don't tell you everything. They don't give you everything all at once, the way, especially the horror genre likes to do. You have to really pick up on the subtleties throughout the film to figure out the dynamics between the different actors or characters. Um, it's served up as if you were there, not as if it's telling everything to you, which I think is nicely done.
Yeah, definitely. Now, so we get, Sarah discovering that Juno was having an affair with Paul, and Beth begs Sarah to end her life because she's dying, and she
Yeah.
doesn't want to die a slow, painful death. So Sarah, unfortunately, reluctantly, kills her with a rock.
Yeah, that's rough. That's
That's
core number 8 or 10, whatever we're on now. I don't even think I called out the bat creatures as being one of the worst.
yeah,
But that one, killing your friend with, for those of you that haven't heard me say it before, the scariest movie I ever saw was Lord of the Flies, which, yay, it looks like they made a remake of it on Netflix. Um, there's a scene with a rock in that movie that I hate so very much. And so this is just a great callback to, terrible moments in human history. But yeah, it's rough, and especially it's your friend. Of course, you're going to do it, but it's not something that you want to partake in.
no, definitely not.
But this, I feel like it's kind of the moment where Sarah transitions into her own form of badass at this point.
Oh yeah, she
She's,
goes feral.
she does.
She goes
She goes
seriously feral. She goes almost as like deadly as the creatures around her. Is she kind
hmm
of this sort of a metamorphosis at this very moment
Yeah.
where there's a scene in here where like she falls into a pool of blood, and
hmm
blood from all the creatures and humans that have died in this thing, and she emerges as this like another being, like this killer
Right.
creature that
Mm.
she's sort of come out of the darkness and it became darkness herself.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. She's like straight up attacking these things as they come out, or she's hitting them in the eyeballs with antlers and cracking them open with bones. She is her own form of creature now. And of course, now she's also, Carrie esque covered in blood. Pretty exceptional. Um, Yeah, so I think that's about the time. You've got Juno with the other two survivors that are there at this point, Sam and Becca, right?
Yep.
Um, they're all together. Um, and Sam gets attacked and dies. And then Becca gets attacked and killed. So you're pretty much down to Juno and Sarah at this point. I think Juno falls into some water and she gets attacked, but Juno, as we mentioned, ultimate badass. She kills the creature in the water. And that's when Sarah comes out and saves Juno, pulls her to safety. Now there are two.
Now there are two, and one knows the truth.
Yeah, it kind of, reflecting back after you watch the full movie, you're like, I wonder if Sarah saved her.
I don't know. Maybe she just wanted to hear it from her.
Maybe she wanted a moment of honesty. Um, Now you've got, these two badasses, and I'm gonna move my head here because they're not doing magic rituals. They're just like ready to tear her down. Um, they are they come into kind of a like a open area within the cave, and there are dozens of these creatures. Um, so it's on, great epic battle. But as they're fighting, Juno looks over and notices the weapon that Sarah's using is her axe with the charm from Sarah's husband. So now all of a sudden, without much words exchanged, Juno knows the score, and yeah, Sarah stabs her and leaves her as bait.
Yeah, it stabs her right in the leg too.
Yep, yep, pro move. So yeah, this is Sarah's show now. So this is probably the best part of the entire movie. Actually, is this? Well, it's not the very last scene, but close to the end, it's Sarah's great escape, and you kind of talked about it. This metamorphosis. She seemed out of the entire group at the beginning of the movie, both during the river rafting and even a year later at the cabin before they head out. She kind of seems like the softest of the bunch, the kind of sweetest, and especially at the cabin, probably because now she's like this wounded animal, kind of, right? She's gone through a hellacious emotional event, and sensitive. It's only been a year, but when she crawls out of this cave, she is seemingly unstoppable at this point. I did read also that the visuals of Sarah departing, there was great inspiration taken from the survival moment at the end of Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
Oh yeah.
which you can see it so clearly. It's that, except Sarah does have a moment where she's a bit hysterical when she's literally on the run from this thing. But I feel like that moment where she's clawing her way out of the cavern, there's bones. That's very Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but she is super strong. She's, yeah, like you mentioned, a totally different human, coming out of this entire year-long situation.
Oh yeah, and coming out of the hole and sort of emerging is sort of her
Mhm.
emergence from the darkness that she's been,
Yeah,
trying to survive for that whole year.
yeah. So I'm going to read my notes, and then I'm
And
going to let you determine if you want to set the stage for the next movie. So Sarah climbs out of the cave alone and runs through the forest and finds their vehicle and hauls ass out of there. She stops on the side of the road, hysterical, only to be jolted out of it by a semi, recalling the car accident at the beginning of the film. So you get another one of those heart stopping jump scares. And she throws open the window, throws her head out, and just vomits everywhere. And you're like, whoa, what a crazy end to the movie. And she turns back, and there is Juno for the ultimate eye bleeding jump scare. Was it just another bad dream? Those are my notes. Do you have anything to add?
It was a dream. That was a dream. So,
It's
um,
just a dream?
it's just a dream because that will lead
Okay.
into the sequel. I'll just say, I don't want to spoil anything. I already
Is it
spoiled it
actually?
early. I'll spoil it. I spoiled it to you earlier, but for people that haven't seen the sequel, um, let's just say somebody survives that cave.
Oh,
That's all I'll say.
what?
Uh, uh.
Well, now I'm even more curious though, because you didn't confirm that it was just a dream. So now I guess I will go and watch the sequel and see what happens.
Yes.
Yeah, it is, that moment too is talked about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I did not read anything about other inspirations, but did you not feel kind of grudge or something when she turns and looks at Juno? Juno is like, with that, just like the way that the blood is coming out of her eyes, it feels like some sort of horror movie I've seen before. And the only thing I can recall is maybe like The Grudge. It's like just black, kind of scary.
Maybe something to an homage to it.
Yeah, something.
Yeah. Um, this movie itself has become a classic. I mean, it is, was it over 20 years old now?
Yeah,
Sheesh, I
it
can't believe
is.
it's over 20 years old. Sheesh.
Such a great movie, though.
Yeah, it's such a good movie. In the UK version, it actually ends differently. Instead of her actually getting out of the cave, she doesn't. And she, after falling in a hole, she awakens and she's still in the cave, and she has visions of her daughter, and
Oh,
she smiles as the crawlers are slowly gathering around her, and the light around her is dimming. And that's
ah.
how the movie ends on that one. So it's a much
Have you
darker
seen
ending.
that version? I want to see it.
Yes, I think I think there's a deleted scene on the DVD about that on that one,
Oh,
if I remember
I don't have
correctly.
the DVD.
Yeah,
Amazon Prime is doing me wrong. Ah, I see.
I have the widescreen original unrated cut. So yeah, it's a much darker ending because Sarah doesn't actually escape. It's but she's kind of at the end. She's let the darkness take her. She's kind of
So
lost it.
in that version, she doesn't get her climb out.
No, no, she doesn't.
Oh,
She's still stuck in the
it's one of
cave.
the best moments.
I know, I know. I think I wonder if that's the difference between that. I wonder if they had like UK audiences just liked one thing, and then the American audiences were like, we want more hope. Somebody has to
Yeah,
live.
well,
Somebody has to survive.
I want more Recall to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't know about Hope, but it's interesting. The ending is fantastic in the version that I've always known, but that sounds like an incredibly compelling ending as well. So, yeah, if you're gonna make a great horror movie and you're gonna make two endings, make them both amazing, please. That's It just gives me another reason to watch this again for the millionth time.
And then
I
they,
love this movie. I really do.
yeah, and in my opinion, this could have been a standalone movie. They really didn't need to make a sequel, but they made a sequel.
Probably didn't.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, because you've seen the sequel. Did they need to make it?
Personally, for me, I like this one better than the sequel. And if I was actually, if they said let's make a sequel, I'm like, I like the way it ended. Like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
It leaves it in mystery. Like, it leaves it, like you said, is it a vision? Is it not a vision? And now that I know what happens in the sequel, I know exactly what's
Right.
going on at the very end of the movie. So
Yeah. Especially because the character has these, like you mentioned with the hospital. And there's a couple of other recall moments throughout the movie where she has a vision of her daughter, which makes sense,
yeah,
if that was the way the movie was originally written. It, yeah, I don't know. Is she psychic? Is she horribly damaged from a very damaging emotional event? Um, I don't know why sometimes we have to make sequels.
I think it's
I should
because
be nice though because I haven't said it. Yeah.
it made more than its budget. It was a $4.7 million budget. It made a little over $57.1 million at the box office. That doesn't sound like a
Yeah.
lot, but considering the budget, it made more than the budget. So,
Okay.
um,
Well, and it made a decent portion of that, about half of that in the US. And I feel like when you have, this wasn't a major, blockbuster outright, I don't believe. I think it's had, it was a bit of a sleeper.
yeah,
Um, and I feel like anytime you have a movie like that, there's so much word of mouth build up that some production company is always going to think you can squeeze another one out, and money's great. So
money is
I
great.
I agree with that. Money's good.
Money's good. Yeah, the movie is only like 100 minutes long, so it's not something you would be like, oh my goodness, I can't, watch this. I won't have enough time to watch a 2-hour movie. I'm like, it's only 100 minutes long. Uh, the pacing's really good once it starts, and it just keeps hitting you faster and faster until the very end.
Yeah.
So there's really no slowdown to this film. Once the action starts, it just keeps going.
Right.
And yeah, it's one of those classic movies. I still get people that haven't seen it, and I recommend it to them. I'm like,
Same.
you want a really dark, like horror film, but like in a sense of dark, like you can barely see anything, but also gives
Right.
you enough suspense and horror that you're craving. Check out The
Mhm.
Descent. Also, if you like girl power, here you go.
Yes. I love girl. You know, I feel like I bring this up all the time, but love something that hasn't been done before in a genre where so many things have been done too many times. And it's, this when it came out, certainly there not a lot of movies about, you know, caves and what could be underground. And I am all for a new monster. I sometimes I get sad thinking, have we run out of the great horror movie monster, and who can create the next thing that no one has thought of? Um, this is a great movie for that. It's a new take. And people that, if you haven't seen this, definitely go watch it, because you're going to get a lot of great moments of cinema recall. It reminds me a little bit in that way of The Substance, where when you're watching that, you're like, Red Rum, Psycho. Just these moments where you can tell
Or The
that,
Fly, body horror.
right,
Just like,
yeah,
oh,
they appreciated this movie, or they appreciate the genre, and they tied that in through this movie.
a lot of practical
Um,
effects in here too, which I really like. Like I've been saying earlier, in earlier reviews, I really enjoy when they, because they didn't have much of a budget here, but still the practical effects really work, and when they work, they work. Um, we're just
for
not
sure.
there yet to make Digital Blood look realistic enough. Where we're like, and anytime I see Digital Blood, I'm like, it doesn't. It still doesn't look real enough. It doesn't move real enough.
Yeah.
It flies like Digital Blood. So when you actually have somebody covered in blood, and then you have
Yeah.
like kills and people getting ripped apart or bitten or whatever, and you get that
Hmm.
practical effect. That's what makes it even more visceral to me.
Yeah, that's one of the best scenes in this movie, when she emerges, and it's that thick oil-like coating that, yep. Well, when you first get it, you get, because it's so dark,
Yeah,
and she's covered, and it's, a dark substance. You basically just get those eyeballs first, and it's also the use of
it's
light in this
Apocalypse
movie.
Now. It's basically Apocalypse Now
Well,
coming out of the
it
mud and
is.
the water.
Yeah, 100%. The use of light also when she's climbing out of the cave, and you have this, just this thin stream of light hitting in all the right ways, and this, very, now completely filthy woman who is climbing her way out on, you've got her stark white face and these bones, these mountains of bones that she's climbing up. Very also Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Um, it just fantastic use of lighting throughout. Glow sticks at certain points, using an old school video camera to see, um, the torches, as
Yeah,
we see in the picture, flares, um, which I think all of those different uses of lighting brings, it's something else, but it also helps, I think, a little bit, maybe intentionally, maybe unintentionally, with the pacing of the film, because it is constantly giving new life and a new way to look at this movie, but always keeping it from the perspective of the characters. Touche. Well done.
touche.
Nice lighting.
Yes. All right. So before we end this review, I want to hear your rating and your final thoughts on this film.
Yeah. Um, I would have to rate this movie somewhere between a 7.5 and an 8. It's a fantastic movie. It reminds me, so the first time I saw it, I did not hear about it when it came out in theaters. Um, I've had this moment so many times, and I love it, because how often are you flipping through streaming and you come across a movie and you start watching it, and it feels like maybe it could go either way. It might be good, it might be terrible, and you might be turning it off halfway through. And this was one of those movies that was so fantastic and so well done. The Babadook, The Ritual. There's a couple of other really great movies. I know it was a much bigger movie, but a lot of the A24 movies, Heredity, just a really good sleeper horror movie that has become such an absolute. I would be surprised if you could find best horror movies of all time lists that this movie isn't on. I'd be shocked,
Yeah.
which says a lot for a movie that a lot of people have never heard of.
Yeah, it is actually
But
is. It's
yeah,
like I've looked in like the top 100, and Descent is actually in that.
yeah,
So
absolutely. Amongst, the best of the best. It fantastic, fantastic production. Relatively unknown. We were talking a little bit about the actors before we started, and there are some movies, the Twilight franchise, and some other movies that some of these folks have been in. The Witcher, I think you mentioned.
yeah,
I was personally unfamiliar. You had seen some of these folks in other movies, but I mean, not major A-list celebrities. So we talk sometimes about, well, where did the money go? Actors are expensive. This has got to be the set. This set
yes,
had to have been where the movie went, or where the budget went.
and the makeup,
Um,
especially for the creatures.
yeah.
So like that
Oh,
four point
yeah.
seven million
Hmm.
dollars had to go somewhere. And
Right,
it said
right.
what was it 3.5 million pounds. So that's about 4.7 million.
Yeah. Right. But they just, this story feels, it feels cared about in a way that you want it to. You could tell that they didn't want to give everything away. They wanted you to feel like you were part of it. So, you're joining very much in the middle of these people's lives, and it's your responsibility as the viewer to catch up and figure out some of these subtleties. And I love that about the movie. I don't want things spoon fed to me. I want it to slowly unravel and to uncover what's going on. And it feels very as much as it has these non, kind of human creatures, there's so much human element to this movie too, in the ways that you would actually handle some of these terrible situations, creatures aside. Um, Juno doesn't lie when she kills the friend, Beth, um, Becca and Beth. I always get
But you
them
got
confused.
Beth.
She
Yeah.
doesn't. She doesn't lie when she kills Beth, but she also doesn't say I killed. She's just like, Beth. Beth died too. It's it's the way that you would probably do it on your own, aside from the super skilled uh, neck breaking.
Yeah.
Much of it feels very, very just human nature. The I don't want to kill my friend who's begging me to kill them, but I'm absolutely going to in that situation. And the wrought emotion in it. It's just really well done for a movie that has albino bat-like human creatures that scurry around a cave. It couldn't feel more real. So yeah, I would say I'm gonna do one of those stupid ratings that I'm sure everybody hates, but we'll go with like a uh, you know 7 3/4. That's what we're gonna do. 7 3/4 for this movie.
Okay, that's good. No, this movie has become sort of like synonymous for like anything that has to do with cave and horrors.
Mm.
Um, Anytime I talk to people that haven't seen it, I'm kind of shocked. I'm like, you haven't seen The Descent? Like, you need to see The Descent. It's yeah, it's become literally a classic. It's like 21 years old now. I can't believe it's
Yeah.
been that long, but
It could have graduated.
yeah,
It's old enough to drink.
it's
This
old enough.
movie
This
can
movie,
have its
yes,
first.
you can have alcohol legally. What they did with 4.7 million dollars is actually pretty impressive with the set
Mhm.
design, the makeup. Even around that time in 2005, $4.7 million film is pretty good. When you consider some movies with maybe even twice that um, can't get a story down right. This doesn't have a
Right.
very complicated plot line. It is a woman trying to survive. You can look into it a lot deeper because the cave and the darkness represents her mind and what she's been going through ever since she lost her husband and her daughter. And to claw her way out, she has to go through these obstacles. She has to go, you know, you can think of it almost as like as this cave as a metaphor for what, and her finally getting out as she emerges from that hole. She's free now. Unfortunately, all her friends are dead, but she's free now herself, and she's able to survive. A lot of people in that situation kind of bury themselves into work, or sometimes they don't even go back to work. They'll like hold themselves up in their house and just kind of become a hermit because they can't face reality. They can't face the world. They're not ready to, accept, horrible things that have happened to them, whether they're a survivor of anything, and because of PTSD. And here, she has serious PTSD. She keeps seeing visions of mainly her daughter. We don't get to see her husband. It's like, there's, sort of argument conversation before that was the last thing she had with her husband. And she mostly sees her daughter. And so now she's constantly like in like guilt mode. Like things could have been different. I could have done things differently. And now she's starting to find herself. And this cave is sort of this metaphor for her to find herself once again, and find out that she's a vicious killer, but still she is able to break out of that that darkness and find the light again. And it's sort of a double meaning in here. It's like she survives a horrible attack by these creatures. Unfortunately, she loses her friends. She finds out the truth, and then she's able to find the light again and live again, until the sequel. Until the sequel. I'm not saying what happens in the sequel. You can watch that one if you want to. Like I said, I preferred that it didn't have a sequel because of what they do in the sequel.
Yeah.
But because there are people that come back that you thought were dead or not dead. Spoilers. I'm not gonna say who. And there are things that happen in there. They're like, really, you just got out.
Yeah. Well, and that's that's good to know, because as somebody who hasn't seen the sequel, this again, it's such a good like realistic asterisk weird people crawling around, but realistic story. Don't mess with it.
Yeah, don't mess with it. Don't mess with it. So all in all, I really like how they did the lighting in here. Like I said earlier, they're using the light that they had with them, whether it was the flares, the torches, the glow sticks, whatever they had. That was the lighting that the director Neil Marshall wanted to use to give you that sense of this is the only light you're going to have. Okay? It doesn't matter if some of the characters in the back aren't lit up or anything else like that. Whoever has the light is the one that's going to have, the light surrounding them or the person in front of them. So I thought that was a very smart thing to do. It's very risky to do for anybody that has ever been a filmmaker or a cinematographer. But I really liked how they did in this film. It did give you more of a sense of claustrophobia, because sometimes you'd be looking off into the cave and there's just pure darkness, and the only light is the one in your hand. So definitely a film to check out for anybody who hasn't seen The Descent from 2005. I give this film an 8 out of 10. It is one that I constantly recommend to people in the horror community, that or anybody that likes to do Spelunky. I'm like, gotta watch this one if you haven't seen it, because maybe you won't want to Spelunk after a while after watching this. But it's definitely one to check out if you haven't already seen it, or if you haven't seen it in a while, like a decade or so, just to go back and rewatch it again.
Yeah, definitely. This is, when we talk about cadence, of it's not something I'm going to watch every year. Feels like I'm probably pretty close to it sometimes, but this is like every 3-4 years I throw this on, and it's not so overdone that you feel like you've seen it all. It feels new if you give it a little space in between. It's a good watch. It's a great story. And it's definitely one of those that you pick up more and more each time you watch it. So those subtleties really stand out.
Most definitely. Most definitely. All right. Well, there you go. There is our ratings and our final thoughts of the film. You did, what was it? You did a 7 3/4.
Yeah, 7 3/4. That's what
Three
I'm going
fourths.
with.
7 3/4. So it's almost a whole
Seven and three
number.
fourths.
It's almost a whole number.
Yes. hmm Very close.
Very
hmm
basically 7. Was it 7.75? I think. Yeah.
Yeah. hmm
And I gave it an 8. Tell us in the comments what you gave this movie and what your thoughts on the film. And we will see you in our next review. So, LC, take it away with your socials.
LCLDCD on TikTok, on the talk, and YouTube.
And you can find me at Nerd Corner on all the stuffs and things on the socials. Thank you, everybody, for watching and everybody for listening. And remember to enjoy your chimichanga.